Okay, so just kicking off now for another weekly Q&A session, and just waiting for everyone to begin getting on board. I'm going to start off by saying, being that I'm a New Yorker, that obviously this is 9/11. So, to those of you who witnessed 9/11, and were there for it like I was, have some importance, some meaning, and yeah, that meaning can be a bad thing too. I know for me, it isn't the most pleasant or fondest of memories. But I just want to start by saying that it is 9/11, so it's something that I always recognize when it happens. Anyway, first of all, I'm going to mute the microphone here on, the audio on the actual video side, because I don't want to start bursting out with a fucking ad. So let's kick off the session. Questions are beginning to roll in. Somebody says I start at 3 p.m. Eastern every Sunday. It varies. Sometimes it's 2 p.m., sometimes it's 3 p.m., sometimes it's 4 p.m. It all depends on my schedule, because I do client calls typically on Sundays with my Vegan Muscle Academy clients, and that can take up some time, and I have to play around the schedule with that. So what are my thoughts on Dr. Sebi? I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, S-E-B-I. I personally think he's a quack. This is a guy who sells herbal supplements, and he claims to be a doctor, first of all, and this guy hasn't even finished a high school level degree, and yet he claimed to be a doctor, which is misleading, and he sells herbs that he claims can help cure HIV and AIDS, and it's just utterly ridiculous. I think Sebi is no better than a witch doctor. And I think he's, taking advantage of people who have incurable, deadly diseases and afflictions. And I think he's trash. That's my opinion on Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi. So, and 9/11 for me in 2001, I was in college, and I saw the second tower fall. I didn't see the first tower fall, but I saw the second tower fall from Brooklyn. I happened to be at that time, I was in Brooklyn at that moment, and I was high enough up that I actually saw the second tower fall. So it was pretty, and something I tell everyone that is a very interesting thing is that the tower didn't, when the plane struck, it didn't actually like blow up and kind of like fall to, it looked like it imploded, like it fell into a plume of cloud of dust, debris, and smoke. It imploded and downward, and like as if it, as a building would if there were explosives set at the bottom level in a structural, at the support level of the structure. Basically, that's what it looked like to me. Not trying to say it's conspiracy here, but that's just what it looked like to me. Let's see here. Intermittent fasting with a calorie deficit, my thoughts. Yes, actually, totally, go for it. I've used it before in a bulk when I was eating higher calories, but I don't like IF in a bulk too much, because for me personally, that final meal is so massive that it takes a couple hours to eat. It's just so big and you feel stuffed to shit afterwards. So I'm not fond of IF on a bulk. On a cut, it's great because you're condensing your daily calorie needs into an 8-hour period, typically speaking on 16/8. And that makes it so that you feel like you're eating more when you're actually eating in a deficit. So for me, psychologically, it makes cutting a little easier. It's just my opinion. How to introduce calories without tripling weight gain. Well, I mean, I'm not really sure I guess I never advise dirty, big, massive bulks, but I mean, modest bulk, and maybe work your way up. If you're used to eating fewer calories, maybe slowly increase your calories over the course of weeks, so you don't just suddenly smash yourself with a bunch of food all at once. So maybe if you're used to eating in a little bit of a deficit, maybe go to like maintenance and then just go a little bit above maintenance. So a couple increments upward. If you find that just heading into like a 10% surplus is just too difficult on your digestive system. And it varies from person to person. I don't have a problem with it, but some people might need to ramp it. People are saying hello, hello. Are you motherfucking people ready? People are getting all amped up here. Do you think there's a way to tap into one's ancestry for strength and energy when it comes to fitness? What are your thoughts? I don't see, I mean, okay, psychologically perhaps so, and I guess genetically so too. I mean, you know, let's say you're like an ancestor of Vikings, you know, maybe that thought of Viking warriors just gets you amped up and ready to go to war in the gym. Or maybe you have Roman genetics, and the thought of like Roman gladiators or Roman soldiers or something just gets you amped up, you know. Or maybe you were like, you come from like an ancestry of like African chiefs or something, and that gets you amped up. Those powerful chiefs or whatever going to battle get you. Looking at the gym as like going into battle, that sort of mentality, whatever amps you up. And if calling upon your ancestry, something you're proud of, that gets you going, if that gets your juices flowing and helps you attack those weights, then more power to you. Go do it. I sometimes, come in there with that like crush the weights, warlike mentality. I often use like Viking sort of imagery. I even listen to heavy metal, and like especially Scandinavian heavy metal that does help amp me up for lifting a lot of the times too. So Trump versus Hillary. Trump. Totally Trump. Hillary is a criminal, and I think she's too sick for office. I don't know if you guys have seen the recent video came out today where she pretty much fainted and had to have people help her into a car at the 9/11 memorial. She couldn't even stand up. She was passing out. And this was not the first time I've seen this. There has been speculation of Hillary's health going around for a while now. So I just don't think she's fit for office. And I've seen her having seizures on camera. There's footage of that too. She's just, beyond just being a criminal, I just don't think she's physically fit for office. She's sick. And she was blaming it on the heat today in New York City. It's warm today, but it's not particularly hot. I mean, even around 2 p.m. it was only about 80 degrees. And when this happened, it would have been about mid-70s. So it's not that bad. I mean, it just seems like a bullshit cover for a more serious problem that she doesn't want affecting her election chances. But there's so many reasons why no to Hillary for me and yes to Trump. What are my current physique goals? At the moment, I am in a slow cutting phase. I don't like taking cutting phases fast. I don't recommend my clients take cutting phases fast because I want to preserve as much muscle and strength as possible. Because when you're cutting down, the point is to get yourself leaned out, but maintain as much of that muscle as possible so that you look juicier when you're leaned out, and you can't do that if you go into an aggressive cut and you burn through too much muscle tissue at the same time as burning through fat. So take it slow, enjoy the process, give yourself time. That means if you're cutting for summer, don't begin in like May. Give yourself time, depending on where you're at. So my goal currently is just to slowly come down because I had done some damage when I was overseas recently with some extracurricular eating. Basically vegan cakes and pies when I sold them. So I'm paying for that now, and I'm trying to bring myself back down again. I eat full cans of beans on a daily basis, baby, please. I'll read that as, I eat full cans of beans on a daily basis, please. Will this give me folate poisoning? Doctor, so I really don't want to, and I don't know much about the toxicity of folate. You can Google that and look it up, to be honest. I know that people, on a different topic, similar thing, but people claim that eating a lot of bananas in one sitting can cause you to have like potassium overload. But keep in mind that your body will pass a good degree of that, and the amount you have to eat, in the case of bananas at least, to get a potassium poisoning is absurd. So it's probably the same kind of principle with beans, but again, I'm not a doctor, so, and I had to look more into the specifics of folate toxicity before I could really answer your question. I don't know everything, folks. What do you think of people who can't go vegan because of stomach and digestive issues? What are we talking about here? Because there are so many vegan options of foods for people that have digestive problems, and you can take enzymes, you can take probiotics to help with that too. I mean, what are we talking about? Specific allergy, specific foods? Because find alternatives or something, you know. So, you know, it really depends on what we're talking about here, and basically no alternatives to something like that. And a lot of times I find that the only ones that don't really have a lot of alternatives are extremely rare situations. Like I had a girl who stumped me one time about how to be vegan if you have if you are allergic to beta carotene, and therefore can't get your vitamin A because beta carotene is the way vegans tend to get vitamin A. And honestly, we need to do more research on that. And one, I'm not a doctor, but it did stump me when I saw that question, and I really don't know how to answer it. So, I mean, that sounds like an extremely rare scenario, though. So keep that in mind. And like I said, when you do research, a lot of times you'll come with solutions. You'll find solutions. So, yeah. If I take a soy protein isolate supplement and get side effects such as gas and bloating, do you think it would be a sign of a systemic soy allergy? Could be, might not be. Sometimes a lot of protein can cause a bit of gas if your body's not used to a higher amount of protein intake. If you're concerned about it, maybe give pea a go, or give rice protein a go, or hemp protein a go. There are other options you can try to see if they work better for you than soy. Pea protein specifically is hypoallergenic, so a lot of people aren't going to find any kind of allergenic responses to a pea protein supplement. So that might be the answer to your problem. And pea protein is incredibly high in protein per serving. It's a very protein-dense protein powder. Hi, Cory. Is it true that when you have strong cravings of certain foods, that you have a nutritional requirement for it? I've heard this before, but you know what? I get strong cravings for candy sometimes. It doesn't mean that candy is a nutritional requirement. It just could mean, like, you know, that I'm craving sugar because I have a sweet tooth or whatever. But it doesn't mean that I need sugar. So it really depends. It can be a sign of something, you know, but I can't really answer that question with one specific, you know, end-all answer, basically. I ate tofu and soy milk with no side effects. Yeah, I mean, same here. I don't have a problem with soy products, but some people do have soy allergies. Will barefoot running and training give me a strong base for many different activities? Specifically training barefoot? Well, I mean, there seems to be some research, but I've seen like research opposing it as well, that apparently barefoot training can be good. I know that when it comes to lifting weights, for instance, I personally find that I squat and deadlift better when I can be closer to the ground, feel the ground more. Now, I don't train barefoot, not in my gym, but I mean, I will use those barefoot shoes, those like rubbery barefoot shoes, like a Vivo Barefoot, for instance, or I think it's called Vivo Barefoot, something like that. And I'll use those shoes when I'm specifically doing a leg or a deadlifting session of some kind of a back session for deadlift. So, yeah, I mean, like it helps me feel like I'm more in touch with the ground and therefore can grip the ground better. Kind of like I learned to do in karate with the way that I would hold myself to make myself a little bit more sturdy in place when I'm in a particular stance. Soy isolate and IGF-1, vegan gains condemns it. My thoughts. Any nutritional, I've done this before in videos and talked about this, any nutritional, first of all, IGF-1 is a hormone your body requires. It needs. There's no hormone that deserves to be completely demonized. If it, you know, your body requires IGF-1, there are functions for IGF-1. It is important in growth, and not just muscle growth, but growth in general. But bear in mind, nutritional and supplemental, I don't mean injected, I mean like anything you get from like creatine or something, or from food. For instance, creatine, would be a transient effect. In other words, you might get a spike of IGF-1, but it would return to baseline levels within 30 minutes. So unless you're slamming soy foods, for instance, like every half hour, which is absurd, I don't even do that, you're not going to have a continual spike of IGF-1 levels. And even then, if you conceivably were just drinking soy isolate all day long, nonstop, how much of a spike would that really be, and how much is really necessary? There's no research on this, you see, and how much is truly necessary to raise your risks of cancer, et cetera, and aging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my thoughts on that. It is a transient effect from food. I mean, like, and training too. It's the same thing as when your testosterone increases from doing squats. you're not going to get steroid-like results because you did a session of squats, even though your test levels will go pretty high into the normal healthy range from the squatting session. Because and this has been shown in research, your levels will return to baseline within between 30 minutes and up to 2 hours later. They'll be back to total baseline levels. It's a transient effect. It's not a steady, consistent increase as you'd find by injecting the hormone. You see what I'm saying? I hope that better explains it. So this blanket demonization of hormones and blanket demonization of foods due to particular hormone increases is just, I think it's absurd, and it's misunderstanding biology. No offense to anyone who's doing it, like Richard, for instance, but I just think that it needs, there has to be a better understanding of how it actually affects the body and how much is needed to affect the body. So that's my thoughts on that. But I'm not a doctor, so I'm just telling you what I understand. Let's see here. Also, yesterday I ate more carbs at night. What happened is that I could read twice as fast. I've already eaten a lot of carbs. 80-10-10 confirmed. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I do not recommend 80-10-10. And I've said before many times, fat intake below 20% at least of your maintenance calorie needs is just bad for your health, bad for your hormone health. I do not agree with 80-10-10. How do I deal with lactic acid and improving your lactate threshold? I personally use a beta-alanine supplement. Beta-alanine can help buffer lactic acid during your lifting session, for instance, and it has been shown in research, and it actually works synergistically with creatine to actually help improve like the number of reps you can get by at least 1 or 2 reps. I mean, that's an additional 1 or 2 reps, you know, and as I've always said, you know, when it comes to progressive overload and progressive training, going for that extra rep, that extra couple of reps, whatever, can mean all the difference in improvements in that session. So I do see beta-alanine as a useful supplement in that regard for buffering lactic acid. And vegans are naturally low in carnosine as it is. We don't get a lot of it from diet. Our bodies can produce it from the plant proteins we eat. We don't get it directly from our diet. So we tend to have less of it than, say, a meat eater, for instance. And beta-alanine is a precursor to carnosine. So by taking beta-alanine supplement, you also can increase your carnosine levels, which can in turn help with lactic acid and everything else. So, are you an animal lover as far as watching nature shows, learning about animals and watching them in the wild, or are you just against their slaughter? Both, actually. And I do have some animals as like my girlfriend would tell you, and as friends of mine would tell you, that I am borderline obsessed with. I really love otters, and I love foxes. I love all animals actually, but like I watch these otter videos a lot. You know, otters just doing otter things in nature because they're fucking adorable. So yeah, I'm an animal lover as well as somebody who's against their abuse. What's your favorite breed of dog? That's a hard question. You know, I grew up with Labradors and Golden Retrievers. My parents currently have, I think it's called a Shishan. It's like a Bichon mixed with a Shih Tzu or something. But you know, I like all dogs, to be honest. When I was a little kid, I was kind of scared of Rottweilers because I had a neighbor that had these big ass fucking Rottweilers, and I was a little kid, and they were aggressive, and so I don't dislike them, but I definitely grew up with a bit of a bias towards Rottweilers. I guess like if I were to try to get a dog, which I don't have currently, but if I were to try to get one, I am interested in Huskies, Malamutes. I just like the way they look. I think they're very beautiful looking dogs, and remind me in a lot of ways of wolves. Particularly, I guess, like snow wolves or whatever they might be called. I'm not really familiar with a lot of the breeds of wolves that there are, but I guess that's my answer to that question. Thoughts on IGF-LR3? I don't know what IGF-LR3 is. If that's a drug, I'm not really, I don't know a lot about drugs. I mean, I know some about hormones, but I don't know a lot about drugs. Thoughts on farmer walks and it's a good exercise, yes or no? Farmer walks are great. You can do them in the gym with like dumbbells or carrying heavy objects from the gym, even a couple of barbells if you can manage to, you know, coordinate that fine, which is the appropriate amount of weight to do so, and take long walks and strides, long strides with that for, you know, over a certain distance. What I do is I do a weird public farmer's walk. Being in New York City, everything's about walking here. So I'll often buy my groceries, which will mean 3 and 4 bags on a grocery trip. And I will take a very long walk home carrying those groceries with longer than usual strides. Like I'll kind of like a power walk with groceries. And it's underweight. I'm constantly carrying these groceries, gripping them as tight as possible in my hands for about 15 to 20 minutes straight, no stop. And that builds up a bit of sweat, and I definitely feel a pump in my shoulder, specifically in my traps and my shoulder region, and my grip, my forearms a lot from doing that. And I hold my core while I'm doing it. So it's kind of like a cardio farmer's walk, functional farmer's walk or something. It's not really like a farmer's walk with weights in the gym, but it's the same principles basically. It's a good exercise. It's a big compound move too. Also, what I meant in terms of cheating with carbs is they make you bigger with water. I mean, you could do that in a keto. You could do a keto loss of water. Yeah, keto diets. The initial weight loss you experience in a keto diet oftentimes comes from depletion of glycogen and and you know, water weight essentially. Some fat too, because any keto diet you embark on requires an induction phase. An induction phase typically takes between 10 days to 2 weeks of doing straight keto before you might want to embark on a carb feed. Whenever I do keto, I don't do straight keto. I do a cyclic ketogenic diet, which means that I will initially do 10 days carb free, then I'll have a carb feed, 7 days no carbs or low carbs, followed by a day of carb feeding. Well, not a whole day, about 6 hours of carb feeding. And then another 7 days of no carbs, and then a day of then a 6 hours of carb feeding on a Saturday, for instance. Wash, rinse, repeat. That's essentially how I run a cyclic keto diet when I do one. And yes, I'm in a caloric deficit on the keto days, not on the carb load days. I go a little bit over, well, quite a bit over sometimes, about 1,000, 2,000 calories over. But otherwise, I stay in a deficit the rest of the week and the week leading up to the refeed. And yes, when you ingest carbs like that, you will get bigger because your body's going to store glycogen and water naturally, because glycogen stores as water in the muscle tissue. So, Cory, I love the vids. How do you flavor your rice and pea protein blend? I can buy unflavored rice and pea protein from company Polson, but I'm sure that won't taste great. Rice protein's pretty fucking nasty when you drink it straight, in my opinion. Others might think it's fine, but unflavored rice protein to me is a bit earthy and nasty with kind of a weird texture. Pea protein tastes like you'd imagine, tastes like peas, basically. You know, I think they do need to be flavored. I find chocolate is a good flavoring for both. Chocolate masks the natural flavoring of pea. Vanilla, not so much, but chocolate really does well. Cinnamon flavors do as well. Some fruit flavors do too. I don't actually add flavoring myself. What I do is I purchase from True Nutrition, and I use their custom blend generator, which you can put in a certain amount of this and a bit of this and a bit of that, and you can make your own custom blends. If you look in the description of this video, I have a link to my protein PDF. It's a free PDF you can download that shows blends that you can make that I personally use. And you can either do them at True Nutrition or you can do them from individual protein powders you purchase. And but True Nutrition has flavorings you can add, and they're all vegan, by the way. I've checked with the company. Even the ones with the cream flavoring is mock. It's done with vegan-friendly, natural flavorings to mimic the flavor of cream. So it's probably like vanilla or something. And I will, you know, add their flavor blends to it. You know, be it like maybe a coffee flavor, because they have a great coffee flavor, a cinnamon flavor, or like a strawberry banana or strawberry sorbet flavor or something like that. I don't have access to True Nutrition as I'm in the UK. Okay, in the case of UK guys, you can use My Protein. Now I don't know if My Protein has a blend generator, but you can buy things in bulk from My Protein, including flavorings, I believe, as well. So check out My Protein. Then again, I don't know much about my protein. I've never used it. I'm pretty loyal to True Nutrition. Yes, I'm a Trump supporter only in the sense, Mike GoPro asks, only in the sense that I think that of the two right now, Hillary is a dirty criminal and she's sick. She's not fit for office. I mean, again, like I told everyone, she just collapsed again today at the 9/11 memorial and had to leave early, and literally carried out. And she fell into her car as well. There's footage of her having seizures on camera, footage of her having, falling into her plane, her private jet. This woman's sick, and she's not admitting to it. She's lied about so many things. I do not trust Hillary. Of the two options, I think Trump is a better option. Now, do I think Trump is perfect? Hell no. Hell no. But of the two options, Trump is a better option. That's what I have to say about that. Donald Pump, make America swole again. It's awesome. Let's see here. What are my lifting numbers? Now, I'm not a power lifter. I've gone over this before, so I don't expect anything grand here. I don't even know if these are competitive numbers. I'm just going to throw some things out there. My flat bench, for instance, I can do for 205 pounds, I can get 8 reps. My deadlift is about 400 pounds for it's between 6 and 8 reps. And I haven't done back squats for a while. I usually do front squats. I like the way they feel in my quads a lot more. So those are the main lifts that I don't really do overhead pressing anymore. What I do is I do incline pressing. I find that doing incline pressing, I can get my upper chest as well as hitting my front delts. And as a bodybuilder, it's all I really feel like I personally need. I did do a lot of overhead pressing back in the day, but not so much anymore. Like I said, I don't think those numbers are to brag about. I don't even know if they're competitive. I don't really know a lot about the powerlifting world, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't mean that I have disrespect for powerlifters. I think that it's great. They have a passion for something like that. And if they enjoy doing it, great. But I'm more of a bodybuilder. So, but whatever the things that I do lift, I mean, it suits me just fine. So I'm happy, and that's what's important. You should be happy, and trying to compare yourself to others. I guess unless you're a competitive powerlifter, then you kind of have to. Cory, if you haven't heard of Brand Bar, you should check them out. A heavy as fuck Celtic folk. I gotta check that out. Celtic folk metal sounds awesome. I'm gonna check that out. Thank you for recommending that. That sounds great. How much does lifting weights improve your life? In my opinion, and I've talked about this in interviews before, lifting weights, in my opinion, teaches you dedication, consistency. It can get you motivated, concentration. It can improve your confidence. It can improve your lifespan. That's been shown in research. It can improve your aging, how you look. It can improve your erections if you're a guy, and how lubricated you can get as a girl. So it can make your sex life better. While women are obviously going to look for more than just how you look. Now, guys might, that's really one of the big things we focus on. It's just part of being a guy. But for women, while they will look at other things like, kind of a person you are, your personality, and if you're caring, et cetera, don't believe for a minute that women do not notice a good body, because they fucking do. And there's been research on this as well. Now, they may not like big, overly shredded, massive men. And there's a niche for that kind of thing, just like there's a niche for S&M. But not most women are going to go for that. They might go for more of like the Fight Club look, or like the Troy look, or like the 300 look. Women don't think they don't have visual aesthetics as well if they find pleasing. So a good body can help you get your foot in the door. Believe me, it might help open conversation. It might, obviously make you look more attractive to the opposite sex. But from there on out, you better have a good personality and be intelligent and have something to offer to the relationship, or it isn't going to go anywhere. So yeah, that's how weights can improve your life. It can definitely improve your life in a lot of areas across the spectrum. I also feel that people tend to instantly give you a little more respect when you look a bit built than when you don't. I mean, sadly, we are a very visual species, sadly or not sadly, whatever. And people do pay mind to that. And I noticed that from when I was chubbier versus now that I'm more built, I feel like I get more respect in general, professionally and personally, having a better physique than what somebody does who's a lot slobbier looking, for instance. So And remember, you're representing veganism, so look good. Ever watch Skelegram? No, I'm not even sure what that is, but I can look it up. Is there a way not to get sick during your workouts? What do you mean? If you're getting sick during your workout, are you training in too much heat, or not drinking enough water, or not taking enough rest, or overexerting yourself? If you're constantly getting the flu or a cold while you're doing your workouts, then maybe you should be training in a different location because somebody's constantly getting you sick or something, or maybe you have an immunity problem. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. The Louis impression not saluted. Hey, I'm not saying I'm great at all accents or any accent really, you know. As a drug-free lifter, how can you maintain that hard look when you were almost 10% body fat? I look great when I'm pumped, but on off days or on regular days, I'm flatter than Taylor Swift's her ass. All I can really say to you about that is that's just part of being a natural lifter. You know, we tend to disappear into our clothing. I mean, we may look, you know, nicely shaped in our clothing, but we're going to disappear in your average ordinary clothing, like say dressy outfits or long sleeve shirts and things like that. There's really nothing you can do about that. The drugs do, because of their nutrient partitioning effects, cause you to look more full all the time. You know, this can sound kind of vain, but if you're really worried that much about it, perhaps before going out like somewhere, and this will only get you through about 20 or 30 minutes, do a little pump up session with some bands or some chin ups in your house or apartment or something, or pull ups or something, some push ups, just to give you a little primer, a little bit of a pump before you go out somewhere. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you. That's just part of being a natural lifter. It doesn't mean you're going to look totally flat. I mean, maybe wear more tank tops or something, and you know, it doesn't mean you're going to look terrible. It certainly won't look terrible. So, hey, Cory, have you also heard of 4DN, also called Dymatize? I contacted them and they sent me an email confirming that their creatine and glutamine are vegan. Dymatize is a brand, Dymatize Nutrition. So yeah, it looks like their glutamine and creatine are vegan. If they're confirming that for you, I would recommend you don't take glutamine. It interferes with mTOR, downregulates it. It's the opposite effect of what leucine does. So for building muscle, avoid glutamine. Get it from your diet and whatever else. Don't take it as an individual supplement. I'm allergic to chickpeas, so it could be an allergy. Yeah, it could be. I mean, like maybe you're allergic to certain legumes. I get bloated and fart constantly if I consume anything chickpea related. Have you tried maybe soaking them first, like getting them in like a dry state and soaking them first? I've heard that can help some people, or try Beano too. Oh, but not for beans. Interesting. Maybe it's just a chickpea allergy. Chickpeas are the bomb. Yeah. IGF-1 can be used as a steroid, bro. It helps in recovery. Yeah, I mean, there are people who inject IGF-1, just like they inject growth hormone or testosterone or wherever else. Yeah. But again, you're getting into drug use here, and it's not the same as what's going to happen when you do it get it from diet or from a natural supplement like creatine, for instance. What's your opinion on the vegetable police? He made some questionable statements. You said that you will take a look at him. Shit. I'm going to have to remember to do that. I don't even know what the hell he said. I'll have to look into it and see. Let's see here. What are your best and worst body parts naturally? Hands down, my worst body part are my fucking triceps. Fucking hate how high insertion they are. It makes them looking bigger. It's just a pain in the ass, and that's just what it is. It's always going to be that way. So I just train them hard with like dips and close grip bench presses and overhead extensions, the big compound moves, and try to get strong at those compound moves as much as I possibly can, and maybe finish off with some rope push downs or something. I just do the best I can. You work with what you got. Next up, I would say my arms in general, I'm not too fond about you know, how big they are compared to my chest and back, which grow like weeds. And my delts could always use a bit more capping, again, because my chest and back just freaking explode. So it makes my arms and delts look smaller in proportion. So it's one of those kind of things that sometimes I've actually done it where because my legs are strong too, where I'll train my chest, back, and legs once per week each in a bro split kind of thing, but hit the arms and delts up to 2 or 3 times a week. And I find that's a way to give them a little extra attention and kind of push back a bit in the others and pull forward a bit more on them, so that they might have a chance to catch up, or even grow a little bit ahead and look a little exaggerated. And it's worked before. Doing arms 3 times a week has actually caused me, by pushing everything back to once and arms and delts 3 times, I gained about a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch in the course of 2 months once doing that. So it does work. That frequency thing on your weak body parts can help if you pull back on the ones that are you consider stronger, that needs to be maintained. So that's one thing you can do. That's a little unconventional that you can give a go to. Instead of training everything 2 to 3 times a week, just focus on the weaker body parts 2 to 3 times a week instead. Let's see here. What are your views on 80-10-10 types of diets for athletes? I don't like anything recommending fat going below 20% of maintenance calories. And I think that 10%, and again, 80-10-10 of what? Are we talking about a deficit or a surplus? How much of a surplus? Maintenance? Using percentages is so arbitrary because it depends on how many calories you're taking in, and that will vary so much, So I like to go with figures like grams per pound or grams per kilogram for my intake of various macronutrients. People mentioning almond raw. I'm actually thinking about doing a video on almond raw. Actually, people have been requesting it on Facebook to me to do because Richard did one on Vegan Gains channel. So I've been considering doing one myself, and because I've known about almond raw for about 2 years now, and I've actually had interaction, fortunately, with them in debate, which he lost, I think I could add something to the mix about almond raw because he is promoting something I think is very unhealthy. Did I work out extensively when I was in college? Yes, I did. Unfortunately, not correctly. I was doing way too much cardio and I wasn't lifting properly. So in my opinion, I lost, and I was also dieting horribly. So I lost a lot of muscle weight and fat weight. See, I was a chubby teenager, so I thought I just wanted to be skinny. I thought being thinner was the better thing, but I ended up looking sickly. So at that point in time, it wasn't until, and then I stopped lifting for a while, and I picked up lifting again in 2008, but it wasn't until about 2009 that I had my diet nailed down properly and my lifting nailed down properly, and the results just began to snowball in from there, and up to this point. I don't know what they're talking about. Somebody says, but it has the word beta. How dare you? Are you talking about beta alanine here? Yeah. Beta alanine ain't a beta supplement. So let's put it that way. Maybe called beta alanine, but it ain't for betas. They get you a couple extra reps there and help you push. So I'd say that's pretty fucking alpha. So, but the chemical name obviously has some reason for that. So, but nice joke. If you're eating enough calories in 80-10-10, it might be fine. Yeah, but then you run the risk of having, in other words, and I've done figures in this before. I don't have them right in front of me, but to get like your needs for a bodybuilder's protein needs to be met, you would need an excessive surplus, way more than I would recommend for gaining muscle. You'd gain a lot of fat. So I do not recommend 80-10-10 at all. Now, I've done a video. You guys can look it up. It's called 80-10-10 version 2 for non-athletes. And it's a video. It tells you how to set up a basic healthy diet that's similar to 80-10-10, but it's not 80-10-10, that I think is fine for your average vegan who just wants to be healthy, who's not particularly active. So do I listen to Mike Muller's podcast? I do not, but I can check it out. I often feel very nauseous after a workout. Any tips to prevent this? Often it feels like it stops me from training so hard. Are you training fasted? Or do you train fed? Are you the kind of person who needs to be fed when you work out, or do you prefer to train fasted? I know that I used to feel nauseous when I was working out when I would train with food in my stomach. That's when I discovered that training fasted worked better for me, or semi-fasted, like 5 hours after a previous meal. So if I ate like at like 3 o'clock, I'd work out at 8 p.m. Do I use citrulline and arginine for better blood pump and blood flow? Yes, I do. I use arginine AKG and citrulline malate, but only when I'm ketogenic, because I get a fine pump when I'm just having carbs. Between that and beetroot powder, the extra help. But when I'm carb depleted, if I'm doing a ketogenic style diet, I most certainly do engage citrulline and arginine, because, hey, I like a pump. I like a good pump, and they do help with the blood flow, increasing the blood flow. Have you ever met a juicer who had a crappy physique or crappy strength? Because I have. I mean, yeah, there's people who are on drugs who look like shit. You know, you would never guess they're on drugs. I mean, there's people who just, you know, that they just don't have the genetics are going to be important, you know, and you can't really escape bad genetics with drugs. You can, you know, but yeah, there are people who have shitty physiques who are on drugs too. And there's members of them in the IFBB also, or who are also, you know, involved in competitive sports, you know, whatever. 9/11 was an inside job. Well, 28, I think that document, 28 pages has been released, and I think it points fingers at the Saudis who are involved in 9/11. And guess who is in bed with the Saudis, so to speak? Hillary Clinton. Another reason why I prefer Trump in power. Happy Sunday to you too, Lynette. I smashed bananas afterward, and I still feel it, though. Anything you recommend? Do you try having protein with that as well? Not just bananas. Maybe get some protein in your system too. It could be that. I mean, it could be, I mean, what kind of meals are you eating before you work out? It could be so many things. It could be blood pressures issues. Look, I'm not a doctor, so you might want, if it's something that keeps persisting, maybe talk to your doctor about it. You might have some kind of an underlying condition. I'd hate to give you advice that would just end up hurting you. So talk to a doctor about that. How much B12 do I take a day, and is it methylcobalamin? I take a cyanocobalamin, B12, and I get usually at least 16,667% of my daily value, which is a fuckload. And I get it from a sublingual vitamin product by Now Foods. I think it's called a B complex or B liquid complex or something like that. It's a liquid. It tastes like a shitty cherry. Like a mint and cherry combination. It's really fucking nasty tasting. But I hold it under my tongue for 30 seconds and then swallow, and it's vegan. So you might want to give that one a go. It's got a fuckload of the B vitamins in it and a lot of B12. It's basically like a blend of B vitamins and other synergistic vitamins that help the B12 absorb better. And it's taken on an empty stomach. I take it in the morning when I wake up. Yeah, people want to see more of my physique. That's fine. Yeah, I'm actually planning to eventually do like a video about my transition in veganism and my body and veganism, and like with a bunch of different pictures. I'm compiling things for that. A lot of my photos that I do put up are poorly lit. My gym, I usually take them in the gym, and it's very poorly lit there. It's underground, and I also just have shitty phone quality. I guess it's just really shit. I use like I don't use an iPhone, so when I take the photographs, so it just tends to look, the quality of the photographs aren't always that great. I try to clean them up a little bit if I can, like by softening them a bit, try to get rid of some of the graininess, but it doesn't always help. Have I ever tried vegan egg? No, I have not. I've made vegan tofu scrambles before, with tofu, like a scrambled egg with tofu instead, and it's really nice. Did I play sports as a student, or am I an alpha male? I think that people who call themselves alpha males are not alpha males. I think that an alpha male is, if you are an alpha male, people will recognize you as such. Like, whenever I see people calling themselves alpha, unless they're just joking, because sometimes I might say alpha as fuck or something, but I mean, I'm just playing around. But when people literally and actually believe themselves to be alpha and call themselves alpha, I mean, an alpha shouldn't have to call themselves an alpha. Other people will recognize them as like the alpha, so to speak. Did I play sports as a student? I was involved in the martial arts since I was 8 years old, and I still am, and multiple forms of karate. I've also done a few years of grappling in college, but all Japanese. I've only ever taken. I've done some. I did try to take some Muay Thai, but it was having me unlearn a lot of karate technique, like for instance the chambering. And so I figured, well, I only got into Muay Thai because I wanted to fight full contact. And I figured, well, I can do Kyokushin, which is full contact karate. And I figured, so why unlearn something to me that's like second nature? I mean, karate is a reflex to me at this point in time. It's not like something that I need to think about. You know, I just reflexively, whenever I've been attacked, and I have been in street fights, I just reflexively use karate. So I didn't see any point in unlearning something that I had spent so much of my life learning and making into a reflex. So that's why I went with Kyokushin and dumped Muay Thai. But I mean, nothing against Muay Thai. It's great. It's brutal. It's beautiful. But so I did that. I played baseball as a kid. I played soccer as a kid. I did not like baseball. I thought it was boring as fuck. Because I have ADHD, sitting at all in the Doug pen or sitting in the outfield, you know, it was just boring as fuck to me. So I didn't like baseball. I don't even like watching baseball, but I love soccer and I love hockey, but I can't skate. So I can never play hockey in a team. So I did field hockey and I love watching hockey. So yeah, that's what I engaged in. I tried to get into basketball in middle school, but I wasn't tall enough. You know, whatever. You know, but and really, I was only trying to join because I had a friend who was doing basketball, and I was like, oh, I'll go with you. But it just didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, I've been involved in sports. Do I recommend vegan probiotics? I think they can be useful. Yes. I mean, if you're having digestive problems, I think that a vegan probiotic, and they do exist, you can look for vegan probiotics, or you can eat vegan yogurts, for instance, which have live cultures, can help you. Um, Somebody says I slap people with the knowledge cock on a daily. Baby, please. My Louis impression is not going to be saluted. Let's see here. Somebody asks, if you were to move to another country one day, where would it be, regardless of where your girlfriend lives? On my list, I would definitely consider, I guess, Britain or Ireland. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm pretty fucking happy being in the United States because I'm pretty fucking happy having my freedom of speech here and not having it totally raped like it's been done in Europe, where everything, God forbid something you say fucking offends somebody, and you find yourself, you know, in jail. You know, I think there was a little old lady in Germany recently who's like 80 years old or something, who lived through World War II and claimed that the Nazi concentration camps weren't actually torture camps or something along those lines. They were actually work camps, I believe is what this woman said. And she got jailed. She actually got fucking stuck in jail for like 5 years or something. This is an 80-year-old woman, you know, and she just expressed an opinion, her opinion on something. But because considering it was offensive, she was stuck in jail. And it's that kind of political correctness that's affecting freedom of speech. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's like everyone wants to have freedom of speech unless you're offending somebody or unless they're offended by something you say, you know, but they want freedom of speech for themselves. It's just about, I hate political correctness. I really do. And for now, the United States is, you know, it's protected. Your freedom of speech is truly protected here unless you incite somebody to like commit a crime against somebody else. Like you can't say, I want you to kill that person. That would be not protected by the freedom of speech laws. But you can call somebody, you know, an ugly motherfucker, and that's completely illegal. You know, even if somebody takes offense to it, it's like, that's the United States for you. So I prefer my freedoms here. So really, I'm not hankering to move to another country, to be honest with you, because I think America has the best fucking laws, and we still have our gun laws too. And I'm a firm believer in the right to carry. I really am. So. Cory, can you recommend an isolation exercise for the glutes and basically the hip region if someone has leg and glute development? Yes, a great one is the hip thrust. I love the hip thrust. In fact, Brett Contreras, who is a PhD, I believe he's a PhD in sports science, recent PhD, recommends the hip thrust. You can do them with barbells. You can also do them with a band, like exercise resistance bands, and then anchor that to a squat rack or a Smith machine or whatever. And now I'm going to warn you, it looks a little fucking perverse. It looks like you're humping the air under weight. You know, I'm just going to put that out there. People in the gym might look at you, but you'll develop your ass doing that. It is the single best exercise for glute isolation. It also hits your quadriceps too. And on EM studies, they've shown that it is the best glute isolation exercise that pretty much exists. And that squats really don't hit the glutes all that much compared to something like the hip thrusts or even pendulum glute kickbacks and things like that. But the best movement you can do for your ass is the hip thrust. So give those a go. And Google them if you don't know how to do them correctly. I do them with exercise bands. Oftentimes I'll do like a set of squats, and then I'll superset with a set of hip thrusts with a band, because I'm in the squat rack anyway, and I anchor it to the squat rack. And yeah, it fucking sucks. That will kick your ass, and it will grow your lower body at the same time. What do you prefer as a martial art? Jiu-jitsu? I think jiu-jitsu is great. I think all martial arts are great. You know, even traditional martial arts. I love the traditional martial arts. It's not that a martial art is particularly bad. It's how a martial art is taught and how the practitioner can use it and how they know to use it. I have said time and again that if you're going to learn a martial art, you need to be involved in active sparring with live resisting opponents, full contact sparring. I don't care if you're learning Kung Fu, I don't care, or some variation of Kung Fu, one of the variations. I don't care if you're learning a form of karate or taekwondo or whatever. Find a school that does active, live, full contact sparring and practice against a resisting opponent. Hit heavy bags too. Hit pads. You know, heavy bags and pads can't hit back, but they can teach you how to hit varying solid surfaces with varying resistances, teach you precision and power that you can then apply to a full contact fight. That's my advice. So jiu-jitsu is great too. In fact, I think that people should learn a striking art and a grappling art. Be that like, you know, wrestling and karate, or jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, or taekwondo and jiu-jitsu, or whatever, you know. You know, just pick whatever you enjoy most, you know. Kickboxing is awesome. Yeah, I think it's great, you know. Somebody says and boxing too for shoulder gains. Yeah, boxers have some great conditioning. Those guys have some great conditioning, man, as athletes and physically, the way they look too. People keep asking about Dr. Nun Amin Ra. I should do a video on Amin Ra. I've talked about him before. I'll cover him in a video, I believe, because it seems to be people want this topic covered, so I'll do that. Any great quinoa recipe recommendations? Tried it once, bland. I didn't like it. You know what? You know, I don't do anything special. Like cook it up with some rice or something. I mean, sorry, some salt or something, and that's really about it. And throw it alongside some rice and some tofu or something like. I mean, sorry, some spinach and some tofu. That's even fucking rice here. But yeah, and throw it alongside some tofu and spinach. I often use it as replacement to rice, for instance. But you know, to me, the salted, I'm like that. What are the best foods to reverse atherosclerosis? How long does it take? I mean, eating a low cholesterol diet, you know, and not excessively overindulging in like saturated fats and fats in general. I mean, keeping it like 20% to 35% of your calorie needs, it should be just fine. But talk to your doctor really, because it depends on how bad off you are. You know, but just following basic health guidelines can help a lot with that. But I'm not a doctor, so if you have problem with plaque buildup in your arteries, then you talk to your doctor. You need to talk to your doctor, man. Cory, tell a joke. When I tell jokes, it just kind of comes out. I can't be put in the spot like that. So, thoughts on stomach vacuums as the main staple in Aberdeen? They're great. Stomach vacuums are great. And they're something people don't really do anymore. You know, Arnold would sometimes sit around at his job when he first started, because he had various day jobs or jobs he was doing, like odd jobs. And he would do stomach vacuums during the day while he was in class or at a job. He has mentioned that in interviews before. It's really good at tightening those inner and working and strengthening those inner abdominal muscles. Of course, do things like ab wheel rollouts, leg raises, and decline crunches are great too when you're coming off a decline in a full range of motion, because it will stretch out your abs and then contract them hard through a longer range of motion on a decline bench. How can I get harder erections? Improve your blood flow, work out more, and eat a healthy diet. Any advice for a vegan bodybuilder who shoots for eating whole foods? I never feel hungry, but I know I need to keep eating to get sufficient calories, and in turn, eating has become a chore. Your thoughts? I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that is the side effect of having to eat enough calories as a bodybuilder to grow and maintain, is to be constantly eating. If you have a problem with whole foods, there's nothing wrong with throwing in some protein powders now and then if it's going to make things easier for you. Just don't rely entirely on protein powders, obviously. Maybe a scoop or two a day. I'm old enough to be president. I guess I could be a president. I could go for presidency, but one, I have no interest, and two, I would, if I did get presidency, if I were to theoretically run, I'd probably be the youngest president that's ever been in office. I don't believe there's been a president in their 30s before, so I could be wrong, but I don't think there's been. I know Ronald Reagan was the oldest one to get into office when he came into office, but as for youngest, Barack might have been the youngest, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Have I ever seen videos where Trey Gowdy calls out Hillary's BS? No, I haven't. But I've seen a lot of videos where Hillary's BS has been called out. Like Paul Joseph Watson's done so many videos on Hillary Clinton making her look like a fool. I've found that I've lost body fat considerably being vegan. Yeah, I mean, like that's really a not so much a factor of being a vegan, because you can be a fat vegan too, but a factor of just eating better foods and taking less calories. It's one way, or being more active helps you burn through calories. How can I increase strength with minimal size gains? Well, one, maybe eat more around a slight deficit to maintenance calories, not like in a surplus. And two, train, with heavier weights, like think in the 1 to 5 rep range more, which might still promote some growth, but it won't promote it to the same extent as working those type 2 and type 1 fibers, within their preferred rep ranges. In other words, doing shit from like 6 up to like, 50 reps. In the land of meat, it's really hard to be a vegan. I grew up in Texas, so it can be done. Believe me, it can be done. I was vegetarian and even vegan for a short period of time. I didn't know it was called that back then, because we're talking about like 14 years ago. Back when I first went off animal products, meat specifically, back in like 2002, and I was able to find plenty of alternatives even in Texas. So, and that is like the land of like cattle rearing and shit and like ranches and shit. Anyway, my computer's about to kick out again. This has been a very good session, and again, a long session like usual. I'll be doing these every week, so stick with me, guys. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your question. Save them and come back and bring them in next week, and we'll get it rolling out. And I'll answer your questions as like always, as much as I possibly can. I've had a lot of fun with this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys around next time. Take care.